Whoa! Video games.
What up, dudes? It's Matt here from YoVideogames, and we're back from Comic-Con 2014, and it is time to talk Legend of Korra. We got a unique opportunity this year to spend some time with the game's creators as well as the show's creators and spend an extended period of time playing through the video game that's coming out this fall for the Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and the PC via Steam. Now, what's most important about all of this is that Platinum Games is developing the video game, and it will be a download-only title for only $15. So getting first things out of the way, this will not be a very long title. It's only supposed to be around 4 hours long, but like most Platinum games, the fun is in the replay and trying to up your score and medals. Medals being what is awarded to you at the end of every sequence or series of battles. That's the same in every Platinum video game. Now, Max has already gone over a long breakdown of how the game functions and plays, so of course you can always check out his video on the main channel at Maximilian_Dude. What I'd like to take the time to talk about instead is a little bit of the lore and the story of the game, and maybe go over some things that were maybe not covered by Max's hands-on. Story-wise, this game is written by one of the writers on the show, and it takes place right after the end of Book 2. Book 2 meaning Season 2, as the seasons are titled as books in the TV show. Activision is staying pretty tight-lipped about story details getting out, so we weren't able to glean a whole lot, but what we can glean is from what the enemies we were facing and sort of the places we were going. Throughout the course of the demo, you'll see that Korra fights off against Equalists. Equalists are a group of people that believe benders are too powerful and too controlling over the world in which the game and the show takes place. However, they kind of dropped off the face of the planet at the start of Book 2. So what makes this game interesting is that since we're fighting Equalists, maybe this is explaining what exactly happened to the Equalist movement that seemed to end at the end of Season 1 or Book 1. Now, it's not really much of a spoiler to say Korra and the good guys won at the end of the day, but it does seem to be a little odd that the entire movement of people would suddenly go away with the defeat of their leader. So this looks like the game might possibly be explaining to us just what happened to that movement and how it ties into the rest of the world and game characters. Also fought in the game is the Triple Threat Triads, which, as their name suggests, is a sort of mafia-like organization within Republic City, which is where the entirety of Book 1 takes place, and it seems like most of the video game will take place as well. Basically, they are a group of various waterbenders, firebenders, and earthbenders who use their bending abilities to muscle in their way on various people and organizations and jobs throughout the city. We fought various characters we've seen throughout the course of Book 1 in the demo, and it looks like they might play a part in it as well. Why the Equalists would be working with the Triple Threat Triads, who knows? Maybe that's a story point, maybe it's just for gameplay purposes. As you would expect from Platinum Games, the gameplay comes before the story. This is a clear example in, say, the waterbending style, where Korra seems to pull water out of thin air. Now, this is not exactly true to the show, but again, you don't really want to have a game where you have to constantly be near a water source to pull water to use it. So the gameplay always comes first, and that's important. This is a video game, no matter how wonderful and great the show it's based off of. As for how it ties into the end of the second book, it doesn't really seem like anything we've seen so far connects. We've seen no spirits, we've seen nothing about Republic City guarding the overtake or the overgrowth from Vaatu at the end. It just kind of seems that, well, you know, it's mostly focused on filling in this dropped plot line from Book 1, which I'm all for, really. Like, I don't really want to be fighting spirits. However, in the early teaser trailer animated by the studio Titmouse, we did see Korra fighting spirits, and they have hinted that you might go to the spirit world in this game, so it looks like we will be addressing that issue later on in later levels of the game. As for the game itself, it does run at a rock-solid 60 frames per second, and as a download title for only $15 that runs on the 360 as well as new consoles, it doesn't really look that amazing or outstanding. It looks really good, but let's be honest here, the sort of effects and textures and backgrounds are not going to blow anyone's mind. It does look like a game that has an extremely short development cycle. But what you will be impressed with is how well Korra herself animates. This is something that Platinum Games has said they spend a lot of time getting right. And you can clearly see, one thing I find impressive about the game is that when Korra switches bending abilities via the R1 and L1 buttons, her neutral stance completely changes to the bending style she's on. This is very accurate to the show, where each one of the bending styles was based on a different martial art. So to see that represented very faithfully in the game is really fantastic. Her whole movement and way of fighting completely changes with each element, and that's something that I think is a great attention to detail, and I'm really glad that Platinum Games is in charge. Otherwise, it might have just been a random series of different attack animations with elements thrown on the end of them. It actually feels more like what you're doing. For example, earthbending is a close-range bending element style. Now, it has some long-range capabilities, of course, but earthbending makes Korra very slow, very anchored to the ground, and her hits are really strong and powerful, exactly as you would expect earthbending to be. Airbending's kind of like a short to mid-range attack, where Korra's basic light attack will shoot out little gusts of air. And waterbending's a little more mid to long range, and firebending is more of the long range attack, where Korra constantly is throwing fireballs forward. Kind of like, Ryu or Ken spammers in Street Fighter. This actually plays very well to the game's strength. When you're fighting Equalists who throw bolos at you, you could use firebending or waterbending to attack them more easily from a distance. And when you're fighting Equalists who have the electric power gloves, you might want to use earthbending to get in on them and send them to an early end. One thing that is sort of unique about Korra's fighting system is that there is a meter underneath the life bar, and as the meter builds up, you're able to perform larger and more devastating attacks. Now, if you don't fight at all or you get hit too much, that meter quickly drains and you lose some of the abilities to use some of the bigger moves. This is kind of an interesting dynamic because it wants you to keep getting in and fighting guys. Now, the game does have a dodge and parry mechanic. However, the parry mechanic in this game is not as stressed, I believe, as in Metal Gear Rising. In Metal Gear Rising, parrying an enemy was all the game was about. If you wanted to get an enemy done real quick, you had to run up, parry them, and then end them quick. Korra, it works in a similar function where you just tap the L trigger to parry. However, when you parry, you basically get a quick QTE, which almost like instant kills any enemy except bosses. Bosses, it'll send them into a stun animation. However, in this game, from the demo we played, enemies were not nearly as aggressive as, say, some of the foes you fight in Metal Gear Rising, and dodging was just as effective as parrying, because parrying you actually have to wait and time it perfectly to get that in. With dodging, you basically are able to just move on quickly to your next attack. So dodging seemed to be a little bit more productive as far as fighting enemies goes in this game, but at the same time, it's nice to have a parry mechanic. I'm hoping on the higher difficulties, which were locked on the demo, that we'll be able to see more use for parrying. Now, what's interesting about parrying is that more advanced fighters, like say the triple threat triads, can parry you, and you can sort of counter break their parries as well. For example, there are moments in the game where an enemy might parry you, but you can counter that parry by doing a very, very shortly timed QTE thing, where you might have to duck, weave, left, right, down, up, and then do a flick both sticks up to push them away. It's a lot like Shenmue in that sort of aspect, so I'm very interested to see where this goes in later levels and against tougher enemies, because seems to be that there's a possibility that we might get a sort of counter and counter break mechanic, which I'm sure fans of KI will love as well. As for the other part of the game, it's very much a temple run kind of aspect, where you ride Naga through the city streets and alleyways, and basically you just have to get to the end. However, what's unique about this section is that there are alternate paths that are not immediately apparent. I had played through the demo multiple times as Naga, and I couldn't get a medal no matter how well I did. A medal, again, being how well you're ranked at the end of a sequence. And then I realized there's a harder alternate path you can take near the beginning of the stage, and that's how you get the better score at the end. So at least they try to mix it up a little bit. It's not nearly as fun as the main game, but hey, it's a nice diversion, and I'm all for a little bit variety. The boss was an interesting thing. It's basically one of the Saito mechs from Season 1, and seems tough at first, but if you use earthbending, you can crush this guy really fast. Just stay on him and make sure he doesn't get too far away. Platinum Games has promised that the end boss is going to be something really memorable, and that's something the show's creators have echoed as well, so I'm really excited to see it. It could possibly be a spirit instead of an actual human. Either way, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun to go up and fight against, and I'm really jazzed to see what they got coming. One thing that is interesting about the story is that the game has a pro bending arena. Now, if you've seen Book 1, you know that there's this sort of made-up mixed martial arts sports thing in the show called pro bending. However, because of how the story progresses, the show's creators weren't able to actually expand on it past the first book. Just where the story was going was very far away from the characters participating in this national sport. So with the game, Platinum Games has taken something that's similar to the tower modes in the Devil May Cry series and added them in here as, hey, you know what, we're going to have a pro bending circuit. Now, what's really cool about this is that the show's creators said they were able to use a sort of plot line or storyline they couldn't fit into the rest of the series and put it in the game here. Now, they wouldn't give too much away, but they did reveal that we will actually see the return of Tano and his team from the pro bending circuit, which is going to be really interesting because he's another character that kind of got lost by the wayside at the end of book 1 because there really was nowhere else to go with that character. So we're going to see these side characters possibly get more fleshed out in the game, and that's even in the bonus challenge mode that they have set in the Pro Bending Arena, and that's actually really, really cool. The game is not multiplayer. There's no multiplayer mode. I imagine this has to do with the parrying system, because when you parry, it's a little bit like Bayonetta, where time kind of slows down really quick and you have to do a QTE to send a guy flying. So I'm not really concerned about that. Maybe someday in the future it could be another game with Korra that has multiplayer. That'd be cool, but for right now I'm fine with what we got. In general though, the flow and the pace of the game seems like Platinum. Maybe just a little toned back, a little bit slower. It's not as balls to the wall nuts as Bayonetta, and it's not quite as fast paced as Metal Gear Rising. However, the combat seems to be just as in-depth and fun and fluid as every other Platinum game that has come before it. I think the game is really good. I'm looking forward to it a lot, and we'll be bringing you lots more hands-on coverage as the game comes out this fall, again for 360, PS3, PS4, Xbox One, and PC via Steam. And you can bet we'll be all over this game because, as you can tell, I really love the series, and I really enjoy what I've played of the game, and I really hope that the game is a huge success and spawns a sequel that's even bigger and more grand, and maybe, hell, even encompasses more of the Avatar universe from the first series to the Korra series. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll catch you later on the channel. Later, dudes.